But at the beginning of issue 6, the unseen enemy tells the Psycho Pirate that something is wrong. Despite the Monitor and the two worlds dying, their power hasn't been added to his own. We also learn that the enemy has the Flash, that he was the one who pulled him away during the time travel, since the Flash is the only being capable of traversing dimensions without aid. Unless, of course, you've downed enough sugar, coffee, cans of Jolt, and Monster energy drinks so that you can see into infinity itself, in which case, yeah, you'd probably vibrate into another dimension. With the Monitor dead, Harbinger is freed from the enemy's control. She's of course distraught over what she's done, but then the Monitor appears on a monitor. Yo, dog. It's a recording he made that explains that he knew what she was being coerced to do and not to blame herself for it. It all works to their benefit, though. The tuning forks weren't ready yet, but by killing him, it's released all of his own energy into the devices to power them and activate them, saving Earth 1 and Earth 2. That being said, they're not out of the woods yet. They still were activated prematurely, so right now the two worlds are starting to merge. But not in a proper way. Instead, their dimensional vibrations will soon match, and they'll occupy the same space at the same time. And basically destroy each other. Alexander Luthor finishes his rapid aging, which apparently includes a spiffy new golden armor for himself. Honestly, it kind of makes him look like Mordred from the movie Excalibur. Anyway, he's been given instructions by the Monitor before he was killed on what to do next. Meanwhile, the enemy figures out what happened and gives the Flash over to the Psycho Pirate to play with while he keeps working, instilling great fear in him. And while everything else is already pretty bad in the grand scheme of things, it's even worse on the two Earths. Sections of them are overlapping as their vibrations come together in the overlap points. Time is screwy with people, and things from the past, present, and future are coexisting simultaneously. And yet this still makes more sense than the finale of Power Rangers Dino Charge. Realizing just how much help they're gonna need, Harbinger, Alex, and Pariah beam up all the heroes and villains of Earth 1 and 2 that they can, including people like the Caveman Anthro and Sergeant Rock for some reason. Surprisingly, this does not result in everybody openly fighting each other, but everyone calmly waiting for the three to explain what the hell's going on. At first, everyone is a bit reluctant to hear all this, especially since the first ones recruited felt the Monitor lied to them about the tuning forks, since they didn't seem to be doing anything. But after they all return to their worlds and see the sheer carnage and chaos caused by this merging, they decide to join up. So here's the plan. Including Earths 1 and 2, there are only a total of 5 universes not consumed by antimatter. Teams will be sent to those other 3 to save them, but the Monitor satellite soon ends up under attack by the enemy. Speaking of, the Flash is finally able to pull himself free of the Psycho Pirate's control and demands to know who the hell this enemy is.
Greetings, Flash. I hope the anticipation has been worth it. Call me the Monitor! And very soon, I shall be ruler over all who live!
Anti-pants to be darkened. Despite that little declaration, he is actually known as the Anti-Monitor. Here's the deal. When the universe first formed inside of what looked like a giant hand, and this is why hand sanitizer is so important, an event occurred that accidentally split it into the multiverse. One of those realities was a universe composed entirely of antimatter. Both the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor were the first life forms to arise in their respective universes. While the Monitor was peaceful and spent his time in contemplation, the Anti-Monitor arose as this almost cyborg-like monstrosity you see at the end of issue 5, obsessed with conquest and destruction. However, because of their unique abilities, they became aware of their counterpart and decided to battle. But of course, they were equally matched and just knocked each other out for billions of years. That's where Pariah comes in. He was a scientist in his universe, obsessed with knowledge and glory. There's this weird thing in DC, at least until this point, where legend has it that no one is allowed to know how the universe began, or else it would destroy it. I don't know how that works, but Pariah wanted to know the answer and proceeded to study it. And his experiments unwittingly allowed antimatter to seep into his universe, consume it entirely, and that energy made the Anti-Monitor stronger and woke him up from the battle. And that's how this whole mess started. Pariah survived thanks to his experiment, altering him to give him his own kind of danger sense.
Pariah, the Puma Man of this world.
The Monitor decided to take advantage of that, using him as a kind of advanced warning system. The Monitor would automatically teleport Pariah to any world that was about to be destroyed, allowing the Monitor to plan accordingly and hopefully stay ahead of his counterpart. Let's go back to the Anti-Monitor himself here. Later in the story, he takes on a new appearance that basically became his canonical one from then on. But I freaking love this look for him here. Just look at this guy. The glowing cosmic eyes that almost look like they're suspended in liquid. Metal-plated skin with some kind of weird brace that attaches to his jaw and nose. Hell, the nose-like features overall help give him a slightly more humanoid appearance, but only just enough to resemble it. Otherwise, there's nothing in all the cybernetic components that would imply this thing was human. The only thing that one could conceive is organic is the teeth, which are huge, but not made to appear animalistic in any ways, just oversized, almost rotting teeth. He even has a speaker attached to his lower jaw, implying that the teeth are vestigial at this point. Upon later reflection and modern art takes of him, maybe they're not teeth, but withered skin. Honestly, I think it's better if they are teeth. And as a dark counterpart to the Monitor, he even has circuitry on his forehead that resemble the Monitor's goofy hairdo. I mean, just hot damn, that is a good villain design. Admittedly, they probably changed it to the more streamlined version we see later because this is a very detailed, busy design, but it's so worth it, especially on this splash page. Anyway, while the Anti-Monitor does succeed in destroying the Monitor satellite, everyone on board survives, and they're still able to teleport the teams into the remaining 3 Earths. As such, the Anti-Monitor has a new plan. He uses his own power to enhance the Psycho-Pirates, giving him the ability to control the emotions of those on the 3 Earths, hopefully causing enough chaos in the meantime for him to finish letting the antimatter wave destroy them. So what are those 3 worlds? First, Earth 4, the world of the Charlton heroes like Captain Atom, Nightshade, and the Blue Beetle. They scared me out of my wits with this fright story that'd give goosebumps to Stephen King! Man, the first draft of Under the Dome was weird. Second up is Earth S, or Earth Shazam because we're not very subtle, where Captain Marvel and the other Marvel family members occupy. Hear me, Mary Marvel! My magic lasso can calm you, soothe you! Well, where the hell was that lasso during Countdown when Mary Marvel was using Kyle Rayner as a club to whap Donna Troy? And finally, Earth X, which may have originally intended to be Earth Swastika because it was a world where World War II was still going on decades later. Home of Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. Again, you might recall me talking about them a bit during Battle for Bloodhaven. Fortunately, Psycho-Pirate's control over the worlds is lost as the 5 universes are drawn away from the antimatter waves and now join Earths 1 and 2 in all slowly merging together. We enter into issue 7, where representatives of the 5 remaining Earths, and Lady Quark, are given the backstory I explained earlier about this whole mess. With that out of the way, a team is assembled of some of the most powerful members of each world, although mostly from Earth 1, so they can launch a retaliatory strike against the Anti-Monitor. How do they get to the antimatter universe? The answer, Captain Atom, lies with the young Alexander as well as with me. I can travel to wherever danger or evil lurk, but I cannot take you with me. Just like how I couldn't take Lady Quark from her Earth. Wait. Yeah, see what I mean? Lady Quark's presence here actually creates a plot hole. Anyway, due to his nature as being both made of matter and antimatter, Alex Luthor is able to open a portal through which they can travel. Pariah, using his abilities, will then lead them straight to the Anti-Monitor. They arrive at his stronghold, and it seems the Anti-Monitor was anticipating this, and thus he explains why he recruited the Psycho-Pirate, so that when this moment came, he could use his emotion-controlling powers to take over the minds of the heroes. Except when he had the Psycho-Pirate manipulating those 3 worlds, it kinda burnt out his abilities, and he'll need time to recharge. Whoops. And after a battle against the Anti-Monitor's forces, it comes down to Superman, Supergirl, and the new Dr. Light versus him. This is one of those reasons why this story is so well remembered, as Supergirl gives her heroic last stand, fighting as hard as she can to take down the Anti-Monitor and proclaiming that even in the face of certain doom, she'll never stop fighting, basically continuing the thread from her conversation with Batgirl in the earlier issue. Unfortunately, due to a brief distraction from wailing on the Anti-Monitor, he's able to finally kill her. She did not die in vain, though, wounding the Anti-Monitor enough to force his retreat and damage the equipment that was causing the 5 Earths to merge together. The heroes retreat to Earth and a massive funeral is held for the Girl of Steel. It's heartbreaking and very well done, probably the gold standard by which character death should be handled. I'm not so keen on why it happened, though. Basically, the thought process was that for Superman being the last son of Krypton, like half the planet had survived its destruction, from the bottle city of Kandor to the Phantom Zone to various other villains, a Superdog, and of course Supergirl herself. As part of the initiative to simplify the universe, it was believed that Superman should indeed be the only survivor of Krypton's destruction. The Supergirl had to go, but they wanted to give her one last hurrah before then. And all in an effort to make Superman seem less redundant.
And honestly, who needs to see multiple different versions of the same thing?
So, in for one hero dying heroically, in for two, am I right? The Anti-Monitor retreats to the world of Quard, the seat of his empire in the antimatter universe, in his new body that, again, is the one he's more known for. The bullet head body is still cool, and as I said, obviously meant to be more streamlined, but just not as cool as the original one. The 5 Earths have stopped merging, but they're still overlapping. As such, the Anti-Monitor has been in the process of constructing an antimatter cannon, thanks to a slave labor force, to just vaporize the remaining worlds and put an end to all of this. The Flash manages to escape his imprisonment and even overcomes the Psycho Pirate's attempts to get him under control. However, he does have a use for the pirate. After beating the snot out of him, he gets him to use his powers to take control of the Anti-Monitor's goons, the Thunderers, and have them attack their boss. He then comes to the energy source of the cannon, an orb of concentrated antimatter, that begins draining his own energy. With no other choice to dismantle the cannon, he starts going faster and faster, wearing down the weapon the more he travels across it, and releasing all of the energy. He starts moving so fast that he travels in time, first to a point in the future, then back in time to the earlier scene between Batman and the Joker, until finally he seems to disintegrate entirely, but in the process utterly destroying the cannon and saving the 5 Earths. It was a Barry Allen story that introduced the multiverse, and with his death would end it. But hey, I'm sure the Anti-Monitor will take it well.
I will absorb the antimatter energy of more than 1 million worlds. They will instantly perish. All the lives contained thereon shall die.
Yep, mass genocide is usually a pretty measured response to setbacks. He uses the energy so that he can travel through time, but we'll get to that later. Needless to say, this kind of energy disruption is so great that even the Spectre, God's spirit of vengeance, feels it. As we enter into issue 9, over the last several issues, supervillains from the 5 Earths have been transported away. Where? To Brainiac's ship. He and the Lex Luthor of Earth 1 have come up with a little scheme. The crisis seems to be over as far as they can tell. The 5 Earths have stopped merging, and they can't detect the Anti-Monitor in either universe, so as far as they're concerned, now is the time to take over all 5 Earths with their little Legion of Doom. They start invading Earths 4, S, and X while everyone else is distracted, especially with a monumental press conference at the Earth 1 United Nations to try to explain all this. The representatives of many different worlds have come here to report on what the press has been calling the crisis on Infinite Earths. Ugh, fake news. This is clearly a crisis on only 5 Earths. Alexander Luthor, Lila, and Pariah are also explaining all this, but Pariah is teleported away, sensing some new danger. Brainiac addresses the UN and demands the unconditional surrender of Earths 1 and 2, or they'll destroy the 3 Earths under their control, and likely Earths 1 and 2 in the process. Over the course of issues 9 and 10, the heroes fight valiantly to reclaim the Earths from the villains, but the battle is ended quickly by the arrival of the Spectre, floating over the 5 Earths and telling them to knock it the hell off. The Anti-Monitor has traveled back to the dawn of time itself, planning to undo the creation of positive matter altogether so that only the antimatter universe will exist. The only way to save the day is for all heroes and villains to unite. And so they do, all gathering together in one spot, and joined by a new hero. Please, I'm Superboy from Earth Prime. You've got to bring me too. Oh, Superboy Prime, it's been a long time. Welcome back, you murderous sack of garbage meant to parody DC's own customers. I kid, of course. Back in 1985, Superboy Prime was just a representative of what was essentially our world, aka the real world. I recall reading once that Marv Wolfman included him because he felt it was important, given the nature of the story altering both Superman's history and a celebration of DC's long history, that a Superboy be involved in this story. Earth Prime has been destroyed, which basically means that all of us are dead right now. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. and he somehow ended up here. Even I don't know how I disappeared, but I'm here, and I'm Earth Prime's last survivor. But hey, no worries, I'm sure this Earth is really awesome. I mean, it's not like my Earth was really all that special. Using the advanced tech they have at their disposal, the group creates a method for them to time travel, but it's not just to the dawn of time they're going. That's for the heroes. No, the villains have a different task before them. After all, they still got that pesky issue of 5 overlapping realities. As such, they've traveled back in time to prevent the event that caused the multiverse to form in the first place. And they fail. The heroes, in the meantime, also fail. The Anti-Monitor expended his own energy traveling through time to get here, so he absorbs the life energy of the heroes to do his thing, preparing to destroy the positive matter universes. But then the Spectre intervenes, aided by a cadre of magic users, imbuing him with even more power. Issue 10 ends with everything around the dawn of time shattering. Man, the universe seems surprisingly fragile if it looks like a baseball can wreck it. Entering issue 11, we get a repeat of the opening of the story. Except now, instead of a multiverse, it's just one Earth. The Earth 2 Superman wakes up in his apartment and goes to work, only it soon appears he's on Earth 1. Other inconsistencies soon start to follow. No one knows anything about the zones where time had gone haywire. Both Central City and Keystone City, the homes of the Flashes of Earths 1 and 2, now exist as twin cities. And when Jay Garrick and Wally West try to use the cosmic treadmill to travel to Earth 2, they find only a void. Oh, geez. Guys, I'd love to help you with your missing universe and all, but I gotta go check on a friend and make sure he's not doing drugs. Bye! Harbinger gathers all the heroes to Titan's Tower and explains what happened, though it's pretty obvious. They succeeded in changing history and making it so the multiverse never came to be. The remaining 5 realities have all merged into one. The Justice Society and the Freedom Fighters both fought in World War II. Only one Superman came to be, and there were no other survivors of Krypton. Those heroes, like the Earth 2 Superman, who already had a counterpart, Earth 1's became the default, and they're just a cosmic leftover. Everyone who was at the battle at the dawn of time remembers, but as far as the rest of the Earth is concerned, the crisis never happened. However, things quickly go from bad to worse again. The Earth is pulled into the antimatter universe by the Anti-Monitor, bringing us to the final issue. In the regular universe, a group of heroes find Brainiac and fill him in on what happened in the crisis, saying they need his help to save the Earth, which of course has gone missing. Back in the antimatter universe, the Anti-Monitor appears as a big giant head and starts yelling at Earth over how they've continued to beat him.
I offer you my congratulations. I acknowledge your persistence. Your will to live is astonishing. Here is your participation trophy.
The world is enveloped in darkness as Harbinger gathers a small force to once again attack the Anti-Monitor. As for the rest of the heroes, well, the darkness is broken, and that darkness forms into billions of the Anti-Monitor's shadow demons, forcing everyone to combat them. But they're gonna need even more help on this one, and fortunately, Brainiac brings the heroes who found him to the one best suited for a situation like this: Darkseid. Welcome, my friends, to Apocalypse. I am its master, Darkseid the Destroyer.
Have you come for the annual Comfy Chair Conference?
Heroes start dying left and right from all this, notably Dove of the pair Hawk and Dove, the Earth 2 Huntress and Robin, and Cole, the Teen Titan I mentioned back in March of the Titans, who was created specifically to die here because Marv Wolfman felt bad about killing off other people's characters and felt someone he created should die too. Harbinger's group arrives on Quard, the time-traveling image of the Flash from before, beckoning Wally West over to a sad sight indeed. The Psycho Pirate pulling at the empty costume of the Flash and begging for help. While they engage the Anti-Monitor directly, all of the DC Universe's sorcerers use their powers to take in all the shadow demons on Earth and expel them, giving Earth a chance to recover. Unfortunately, that also puts them in a prime position to help the Anti-Monitor when the heroes finally seem to defeat him, and he absorbs all the shadow demons at once to regain his strength again. The Earth 2 Superman forces everyone else to go return to the positive matter universe with Earth, making the last stand against the Anti-Monitor. However, 2 remain to help: Superboy Prime and Alexander Luthor. Alex is especially key. Darkseid is able to access Alex using New God technology and channels energy from Apocalypse through his eyes, damaging the Anti-Monitor even further. The dude takes like 4 or 5 different fake-out deaths to the point where he's just a screaming, angry cloud saying Superman will die, until finally the Earth 2 Superman, the original Golden Age hero, I am a man, punches the Anti-Monitor. Due to some of the consequences of battle, a nearby sun will explode and kill the three. Even Superboy Prime saying he's okay dying, knowing that they saved everything. Yep, I think that kid's destined to go down in history as a real hero, boy howdy. However, Alex reveals that all isn't lost. Not only does he know a place where they can go to live out in peace, but he also saved the Lois Lane of Earth 2. I knew how the universe would be reborn. I knew the consequences, and I could not let you, of all the heroes, suffer in that loss. I mean, there were several billion other people who probably deserved to live, but she kind of resembles my mom, so there you go. In the wake of all this, we see the consequences for many of those left behind. The dead, the missing, the displaced, and the reborn, as Wally West becomes the new Flash. Harbinger, Lady Quark, and Pariah decide to carry on the Monitor's cataloging work, especially since this is a whole new reality. And in the final epilogue, we cut to Arkham Asylum, which I guess in the 80s looked a hell of a lot cleaner and more well-kept than in later stories. And who is the latest resident of the asylum? The Psycho Pirate, who proclaims that he will never forget the other Earths or the Crisis. You see, I like to remember the past because those were better times than now. I mean, I'd rather live in the past than today, wouldn't you? I mean, nothing's ever certain anymore. Nothing's ever predictable like it used to be. These days, you just never know who's gonna die and who's going to live.
And thus the Psycho Pirate became the Nostalgia Critic.
This comic is an epic equal to no other. Crisis on Infinite Earths is a story that spans from the dawn of time to the far future. It stars everyone in the DC universe and celebrates its history while creating something new for the future. The artwork is gorgeous, from splash pages that show off the sheer scale and immensity of the situation to the small character moments scattered throughout. Its failings are few and far between, mostly stemming from the conventions of being an event comic. Minor bits of subplots and characters that are meant only to hint at something explored in a tie-in versus being part of the actual narrative. It did what it set out to do and is responsible for memorable moments and imagery that are still homaged today. For me personally, the Titans were my first real exposure to the DC universe, but it was reading Crisis on Infinite Earths that showed me just how huge it truly was, showing me characters I had never heard of but now are some of my favorites, like the Blue Beetle, so I owe it for that at least. So what was the aftermath of a book like this? Well, a bit all over the place. The goal was to streamline the DC universe, and for the most part it did, creating an established continuity of events, but also introducing some dreaded reboots. For example, Superman and Batman had been active for some time, but Wonder Woman was now just starting out, which in turn led to the issues with Donna Troy and her multiple backstories. Superman's Silver Age roots as being the first Superboy were erased, which created problems for the continuity of Legion of Superheroes. The Golden Age Hawkman and Hawkgirl were confusing as all hell when placed next to the modern era ones, and you get the idea. It felt like while they had most of the pieces in place afterwards, there were still a lot of bugs to be worked out. And oh, how they tried to work them out again and again. 2 sequels, possibly 3, to Crisis on Infinite Earths occurred. Around 10 years later with Zero Hour, which was a bit more of an indirect sequel, trying to once again revise things, and instead making it worse, while Infinite Crisis 20 years later was a direct sequel, dealing with the fallout of both then recent events and the perception of the DC universe and the state of superhero comics since Crisis on Infinite Earths. I do enjoy Infinite Crisis, but it is a severely flawed story despite very good attempts at making it as epic in scope. Still, despite retcons introduced in those 2 sequels, this new version of Earth lasted until the New 52 did create a full-on reboot once again. And hey, 25 years ain't bad. As for Crisis on Infinite Earths in-universe, for the longest time, only the Psycho Pirates seemed to recall the events of the Crisis in their entirety. As the heroes settled into this new Earth, referred to by most readers as the post-Crisis Earth, they forgot both the multiverse and much of what had happened, only recalling that they fought a being called the Anti-Monitor and that Barry Allen and many others had died during that. Pariah would appear again in the event War of the Gods, but otherwise didn't really make an appearance again until the build-up to Infinite Crisis, where he would be killed and resurrected a few times by Event Comics. Harbinger, of course, joined up with the New Guardians and their quest to have sex to pass on their super-duper genes, but was eventually killed in the storyline reintroducing the Superman's cousin Supergirl into the post-Crisis Earth for some dumb reason. Lady Quark would go on to join the DC Space Team Legion, and other than a cameo as part of Infinite Crisis, hasn't really had much of anything else going for her. Like the others, as part of the New 52, she's made an appearance here and there, but nothing of note. The Monitor, well, we all know what happened there. Thanks, Countdown. As for the Anti-Monitor, he actually remained dead a pretty long time, 22 years, being reborn during the Green Lantern crossover Sinestro Corps War. Before he could do anything major, the New 52 happened, and he was reintroduced as part of a Justice League storyline called Darkseid War. He was given a new backstory, and a lame one at that, tying him more into the mythology of the New Gods and giving him a more humanoid appearance that frankly makes him look more like a ripoff of Marvel's Apocalypse. As for the Psycho Pirate, well, that's a long story there too. But needless to say, he didn't forget. And whew, that's it for this one. Come back next week as we flip over to Marvel and see what is considered the first real big crossover event. Just remember, nothing you dream of is impossible for him to accomplish. Somehow, at the dawn of time, we were split into an infinite number of universes. To save all life, we must return to being one universe again. And trust me, it'll stay that way when we're done with this. I mean, I'd have to be pretty crazy to split it up into a multiverse again.